The boat arrived at Ichumenitsa with a jolt, toppling the passengers at the front and creating a ripple effect that spread quickly through the hold. Robert and I lunged for the railing and managed to get there just in time to keep ourselves upright. But there was a flash of white as Vivienne teetered over to make a soft landing on her holdall. I waited a moment to check that she wasn't hurt, and as soon as Robert stooped to pull her up, I took my chance. Not looking back, I skirted around the edge of the confusion and scuttled up the dented metal stairs. My heels were raw where I'd been pacing around the deck in my ill-fitting shoes, but I barely registered the shooting pain as I pumped my arms and legs, blood pounding and crashing in my ears. I'd been planning this moment for the whole journey, and I couldn't afford to let my nerves get the better of me now. The passengers on the upper deck were so tightly packed that nobody seemed to have gained enough momentum to hurt themselves in the fall, but a group of Greek traders were shouting and gesturing wildly at the captain, their bags of fruit and vegetables swinging on their arms. I tried to push my way to the front, but I was penned in, and I hugged my handbag close to my chest to stop it being jostled to and fro by jabbing elbows. Unable to bear the din anymore, I hauled myself onto a ledge to get a better view and scanned the dusty walkway below. The riot of local activity more than made up for the lack of holidaymakers. Forlorn donkeys laden with bulbous sacks were being led around a fleet of battered vans, and the cigarette smoke rising up from the men waiting to board mingled unpleasantly with the odour of the fishermen's crates stacked on the dock. Shielding my eyes, I scoured the crowd until I found what I was looking for, a group of policemen standing in the shadow of the boat. I had spent so much of the journey worrying about this moment that it felt almost inevitable that they were there, looking up intently at the deck as if searching for me in the crowd. I ducked down and watched for a few moments to assess my options. And when one of them stepped out of the shadow to greet a trader, I saw the glint of a gun at his belt. A wave of vertigo swept over me, and I lowered myself carefully to the ground. I fumbled with my bag, the clasp slipping between my sweaty fingers until it opened with a pop. I peeked inside, and my stomach twisted at the thought of what would happen if the policeman searched me. Scrunching up the canvas tote, I pushed it right down inside the bag until it barely showed. We'd agreed that I should wait until the boat was far from land and surrounded by churning water before hurling it overboard. But when I got up to the top deck, there were too many people around. My only option was to place it on the side and nudge it off, but I was paralysed by the thought of the breeze catching it, forcing me to watch helplessly as it fluttered back onto the deck below. I clicked my bag shut, cursing myself for losing my nerve, and tried to make my way back to the stairs. With rising panic, I realised the passengers behind me had already shuffled forward to fill the gaps. Pushing against the wall of hot bodies, I only managed to move a few steps before the metallic clinking of the ramp rang through the air. I tried to weave sideways to escape from the press, but I was slowly shunted towards the front of the deck. When I reached the ramp, I craned my neck to see if I could spot the blonde waves of Robert's hair or Vivienne's jet black crop, but there was no sign of them in the crowd. The midday sun needled my skin as I stepped out from the shade of the boat, and I felt itchy with the thought of the policeman watching me. One of the men waiting on board grinned at me when I looked up, but I pretended not to have seen and tugged my straw hat further down my forehead. Clasping my handbag close to my chest, I set foot on the dock and looked around for an opportunity to disappear into the crowd. I joined the back of a rowdy group of fishermen who were pushing their way through the people milling around the boat. But when I drew level with the policeman, one of them waved and called me over. "Kalos orisete," he said, and I couldn't work out whether it was a greeting or a command. I tried to keep my expression neutral as I turned the unfamiliar word over in my head, but I could feel the fear tugging at the corners of my mouth.